Ryan McAdams. Ryan, a pastor, and he is running for Congress in the 4th District in Virginia. That is a seat that is currently held by first-term Democrat Don McEachin. And Ryan making a lot of effort, and a lot of people that I've talked to say he's a really great guy. I had a chance to meet him a few weeks ago at a fundraiser at one of our mutual friends. Ryan, good to have you with us, man.
John, good morning. Great to be on with you on the show.
Okay, Ryan McAdams. Now, look, you look at the 4th District, Ryan, and candidly, I haven't gotten really excited about it because you look at the district, it's pretty solid Democratic district in a Democratic kind of wave year. And so you look at your candidate and you say, okay, great effort, but you're not going to beat Don. And so we kind of move on to something else. But a lot of your people telling me you're going to be very competitive in this race. Tell us why.
Well, number one, we know the narrative that even President Trump experienced in his election, where people didn't give him a chance, and yet he worked hard. I thank God that he did work hard and believe that he can win that race. And I know that you were one of those early on that got on board with President Trump. And you know, this is a unique map now in the 4th District. It's very diverse. It goes from Richmond to Chesapeake, as you know. We had the redistricting in 2016, and a lot of people think that because Randy Forbes left the district, maybe the listeners don't remember this. I know you know, but Randy Forbes left the district, District 4, to run in District 2, and then he lost in the primary to Scott Taylor. And so a lot of people think because of that it's an unwinnable district, that the reasons why he left the district was because he couldn't win. But those that know the district, and these are elected officials, Senator Amanda Chase, Delegate Riley Ingram, and others, they really believe that if Randy would have stayed and fought and really done the work in the campaigning, that he would have won this district. And we believe that too. We believe that it's more of a swing district. Even though the demographics has changed, bringing Richmond in, there's a lot more minorities that have come into the demographic in the 4th District. But, you know, Mitt Romney won this district in 2012 as it's currently drawn. So we looked back retroactively at the numbers to see how did Mitt Romney do in this district, and he narrowly won. So that proves that it can be won. It's a district that can be won with the right candidate. And so we're out there working hard. We believe that on the other side, that Don McEachin is very weak. He's an absentee congressman. He's not engaged. I hear this as a constant narrative throughout the district, whether it's vets, whether it's farmers, whether it's business owners. You know, I just heard from a group of dentists. I'm actually going to be meeting with some dentists down in the Chesapeake area, and said that they were reaching out to Donald McEachin for the last 2 years to talk to him about issues that relate to veterans, where they can't serve veterans, and they wanted some things changed. And he would never meet with them. He would never talk with them. And even, you know, a lot of promises were made, but in 2 years, he hasn't done it. And so I'm meeting with them, and we're getting out there. He doesn't have great name recognition. You know, I was been very surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But most people don't even know who their congressman is in the 4th District. So I think there's a unique opportunity for us. And in addition to that, you know, we're working really hard, and we have a strategy. We're getting out the base. Some more numbers for you is in the primary, Republican primary in 2016. Now, remember, this is a presidential election. Only about a little over 7,000 people came out and voted in the Republican primary for the congressional candidates. Now, this year in a midterm, I myself got over 17,000 votes and won 72% of the vote. Mm-hmm. And so we're seeing a lot of grassroots support in the district. And so that's one of the things that I believe is to our benefit, is that we're energizing the base. But we're also reaching out to areas. I'm a unique candidate. As you said, I'm a pastor. I've been a social worker for the city of Williamsburg. I've been a small business owner. I'm very comfortable and very familiar in the urban areas with welfare, with housing, with minority populations. And so we're going where Republicans don't normally go. We have something called the Urban Development Coalition. Bishop Leon Benjamin, I don't know if you know Bishop Leon, he's a surrogate for President Trump, loves the president, as I do. Yes. He's on board with us, and we're reaching out into the urban areas. In fact, yesterday I was at Morning Star Baptist Church on the south side, African-American church. They invited me. I've become good friends with Dr. Terrell Brown. He invited me to their celebration of their 112th anniversary of the church, and And so we're going into African-American churches. We're doing forums. I have a heart for criminal justice reform. One of the main things as we're going forward here in the general election, and some of the things that I'm really passionate about doing in Congress, is working on affordable housing. And that's just the housing situation in Richmond, particularly among public housing, is in deplorable condition. And even my opponent, my competitor, Don McEachin, was called out on this in the RTD when the heating units broke down at Creighton Court, and he was completely unaware, completely aloof to what was going on, and said, well, how am I supposed to know what's happening? And RTD called him out and said, Donald McEachin, do you read the papers? But this is who he is. He's not even engaged in his own area, which is Richmond. And I talked to a guy yesterday at this luncheon at this church who knows Donald McEachin, and he says, yeah, I've noticed that, he came in with a big bang, but he's really done nothing, and he's really fallen off the table. So we feel like that's a real opportunity for us, and then I know I'm talking a lot, but there's another thing. We're mobilizing in the church. And as a pastor, as also the state director for the Virginia Prayer Caucus, and so I have a lot of experience working in the church and reaching out to the church. And so we have a strategy to get into 100 churches to show a video from the AFA, the American Family Association, to really energize Christians to come out and register to vote and to vote in this election. And we believe we can get 5,000 new registered voters in the church within the next month and a half. And so we're very excited. We see a lot of momentum. Everywhere we go, people are excited and energized. We're going to the forgotten places of this district. I was just in Waverly on Saturday at a barbecue, and they said, you know what, we feel like we don't have representation. Emporia has said the same thing. Farmers say the same thing. We don't have representation. I had a Democratic farmer that said, you know what, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, we need representation, and we don't have it now.
We're with Ryan McAdams. He is running for Congress in the 4th District of Virginia. That is a seat is currently held by first-term Democrat Don McEachin. So I got to get to some issues, but just one more campaign issue. So last year, Sheriff Mike Wade, who was an elected official, won election in Henrico several times. Really good guy. Early in the election night, they were pretty excited because of their results in Chesapeake and along the 460 corridor like you talked about. But then we got to Petersburg, and they got beat like 5-1 or something. I mean, that's not the number, but they got crushed when you went into the urban areas. I know you have a strategy to change that, but that really to me is why I've not spent a lot of time on this race. So when the results in Petersburg and some of McEachin's urban areas in Richmond came in, I mean, the thing turned into a landslide. How do you penetrate that area and change that, especially with the headwinds running against the Republican Party right now in Virginia?
Well, number one is like I said, what we're doing. And as far as the urban areas, we have a direct outreach into the urban areas. We're bringing policy that is resonating with them when they hear our message, about economic opportunity. I completely support the president and his economic growth policies. It's having tremendous results for the urban areas, for minorities, for everybody, as we know. And so, when we start talking about the numbers and the facts, and not just the bluster of the Democratic Party, I mean, we're seeing results. And so we're messaging directly. Another thing that just recently happened is Herman Cain's coming in with America Fighting Back. And his PAC, I don't know if you've heard about it, he just rolled it out actually on Friday. I was up there at the National Press Club when he rolled it out, because he's identified 36 races, House races, and I think 4 Senate races that they're focusing on. But we're one of the House races. And, they have a positive message trying to get the Trump vote out. And so we're not the only ones that believe we can win this race. The Frederick Douglass Foundation, Dean Nelson, and the North Star PAC, they're talking about, weighing in heavily in this race, and maybe with I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. Of course, we can't coordinate with them, but there's others that believe we can win this race, and there are those that focus on that very demographic. The fact that
let's get to some issues.
Is a minority that has minority pockets.
I got it.
We're aggressively going after that vote, and I believe that we're making ground. If we can get 5% instead of 90%, say in Petersburg, if we can get 5, 6, 7% more out of Petersburg, And if we can do the same in Richmond, Bishop Leon Benjamin's the new Republican chair there, and he is working hard. And the Republican chair traditionally in Richmond hasn't been doing anything. It didn't do anything in the primary.
Okay,
and yet
I got to get to some
Richmond.
policy.
So,
okay,
anyway,
I get it.
We believe we can get enough to win, and we can get enough. We can get more out of other areas. You know, Mike Wade is a great guy. I've talked to him, and he's supportive and all that. And you know, he was candid about his campaign, and he said, you know, there was things I did wrong. There was things I could have done better, and he shared with me those things. And I don't want to, you know, he was very candid about that. I believe we're running a robust campaign that is going to be more effective. And I think the primary numbers, you know, bear that out.
Ryan, I got to get to some policy. I think we got it. I think you can win. Okay. Let's get to the Syrian situation. Right now, Russian and Syrian jets have resumed intensive strikes in Idlib for a second day. There are 1.2 million Syrians now in Idlib that don't support the Assad government. This is their last stronghold. This is it. But with the Russian air support and the Syrian offensive, you're going to have over 1 million people dispersed here. Do you have a position on this? Do you want to see the U.S. just get out? Do you think we should put pressure on President Erdogan of Turkey to take them? Because it's now weeks before the Assad government is back in total. Idlib is the final stronghold that the anti-Assad forces have. It is weeks away from falling, and that's going to be the end of it. Then Assad is going to be back in charge of the entire Syrian country. So then what happens to these people in Idlib? What is your position here?
Well, let me just say generally, let me back up and just say, you know, it's more of a general position. I think that what, you know, President Obama did in the Middle East is a complete disaster. And so everything that we have right now is really trying to make the most of just a horrible situation humanitarily and also, you know, militarily. Excuse me. So, I mean, that being said, it's a tough situation. I mean, generally, I believe, like in Afghanistan, you know, we've been there 17 years, and the Afghan government has to really do something for themselves and take over security. I don't believe we should have perpetual war all around the Middle East or all around the world. So that's my general position. As far as Syria, again, I think that it's a very tentative situation, obviously, with Russia and what's going on there. I think that we have to, obviously I don't know all the details. I think that we have to do what's in the best interest of national security for the American people. And, you know, if that means supporting and pushing back, then we do that. I don't know everything that's happening on the ground there, so it's hard for me to really make a decision. My general position is that I think that Trump is doing a great job. You know, he pretty much, until now, we were seeing a huge pushback against ISIS and pretty much squashing, you know, all the advances that they were making. And so I trust the president's instincts in Syria, and I hope that you know, that what happens here is not going to result into a larger conflict. And so maybe I'm not getting into too much details there, but that's my general position on it.
Are you in favor of the president's tariffs on the Chinese? He's just implementing another $300 billion in tariffs, and as well as the European Union. Are you in favor of those or not?
Yes, I'm in favor of the tariffs, and I believe that it's a longer-term strategy. I think that a lot of people that are criticizing the president's strategy, I was talking on the radio on 1340 in Hopewell the other day, and someone I was on the line with, they made a good point. They said it's like, you know, if you're criticizing tariffs, it's like criticizing the football team when you're in the first quarter, and we've got 3 more quarters to play. You know, I mean, we have to be patient with what the president's doing. And I'll tell you, I sat down with Mr. Reynolds from Reynolds Metals a few months ago, actually right after the tariffs began to be implemented. And I asked him, I said, you know, as someone who's very familiar with all the inner workings of tariffs and how they affect you and how this might hurt you, what is your position? And he says, I think it's good for America, and we can weather the storm. The other thing, I was just with some farmers, and like I said, in Waverly at the Ruritan barbecue, and I was asking them. I said, how is this? Because I was one man in particular had acres and acres of soybeans. I said, how is this affecting you, and what is your position on it? And he says, you know what? We can weather, same thing. We can weather the storm. They've been killing us for years, and this is the right thing to do, and we're going to be okay. And so generally, that's my position. I think that it's a good strategy. We're going to have to see how it plays out. We already see with the renegotiation of NAFTA that is good for everybody, not just Americans, but for Mexico and Canada too. And so I am fully supportive of the president and his tariff strategy.
Okay, Ryan McAdams, we're out of time. People want more information on your campaign. Ryan, where do they go?
They can go to RyanMcAdamsForCongress.com. We're also on Facebook. Reach out to us, please. If you need a sign or if we need if you'd like to donate, we'd love to have your support. And please keep working in the 4th District. We can win this.